Hello, everyone. We're here with another episode of the Intuitive Revolution in Business. And today I have a very special guest. Can you introduce yourself, Michaela? I'd love for you to let our audience
Sure.
know.
I'm Michaela Light. I'm the author of 3 books, 2 of which are on business intuition. And I run a software company. And I've been using my intuition for many years. Delighted to meet you.
I'm really honored to have you here because I've actually bought your book ages ago when I was doing a bit of market research to write my own book on intuition. And do you remember the story? And then I did a search. Actually, you don't know how I found you again. So I bought your book, never read it. Sorry, you know how it can happen sometime. Although I love the cover. And then about 6 months ago, I was doing a search on one of my trademarks to check if there was a problem or something. And literally, I came up on my trademark search everywhere, and you were sandwiched in between your website, obviously. And so I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. I clicked on your website, and then I realized I had your book. I was like, oh my God, this is interesting. And then I found you had a podcast, and then I booked myself on the podcast. And that's how we connected in real life after I connected to you through your book. Very excited to have you on the show. A bit intimidated, if I'm honest. I don't know why you intimidate me. Maybe because I put you on a pedestal. I don't know.
Well, I can step off the pedestal if you like. I mean,
yes, please do.
It's only in your imagination.
I know that. But I bought your second book a week ago when we were having the discussion, and I'm loving it. The what would it take question. I love it. And I know I'm going to read your first book very, very soon. But I have some questions for our listeners about how does a math head like you, who has a business that is not centered around intuition, at least not mainly, how did you get into doing what you're doing with the intuitive leadership mastery?
Good
What did it start?
question. Well, it started in many different ways, but one event that stands out is I had a little car crash about 22 years ago. And, I had some whiplash. I didn't break any bones or anything. I didn't kill any cats, dogs, or humans. So a few mosquitoes might have died as the car swirled around in a circle after being sideswiped. But I went to some physical therapy, and then, that ran out from the insurance, and they said, well, why don't you do some yoga? That'll kind of like, help maintain your body. And that's how I started getting into more mindfulness. And I think that was one of the things that helped wake up my intuition. I did many other things. I went to lots of workshops and conferences and read a zillion books on personal growth. But I think yoga was one of the keys to that. And I actually did yoga teacher training about 10 years ago. And that really kind of lit a fire under my, yeah, that lit a fire. I think there's something about yoga. It kind of cleans out our energetic system as well as helping our body. It also helps clean out spiritual cobwebs. So certainly did for me.
So why did you do the yoga teacher training? Was it for yourself?
Yeah, for myself. I didn't really want to teach yoga. I have taught yoga. I liked teaching people, helping other people. I mainly did it as a vehicle for personal growth. What happened is I started going to yoga classes, and I went to these Kundalini yoga classes, and they were really weird. They had us do all these weird postures and mantras and what have you. And I fell in love with it. And I started going to this festival, for want of a better word, where they had, lots of yoga teachers. And the people I met there, they had these eyes that were just shining with light. They were so clear. And I'm like, I want some of that. And I said, how do you get that? And everyone I asked said, oh, I did yoga teacher training. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And it was a bit scary because, I committed to do it for 9 months or something. And so we spent every other weekend doing yoga from like 4 a.m. through whenever we stopped, I don't know, 8 p.m. And perhaps more importantly, on a spiritual level, the instructor would, this week we're going to work on this chakra, or we're going to work on this part of your spiritual development. And I didn't realize it at the time, but really it was just getting all the stuff I'd had, in my way and clearing it out. And after I did that, my intuition was a lot better. And I actually had an intuition to go, leave the United States where I was, and
I was going
and
to
had
ask,
been
where
for
were you
20
back
years.
then when you did the yoga training? So
I
we're in
was
the US. Yeah.
I was just outside Washington, D.C., that center of light and love. Or actually, it is quite a center of light workers, because they have to balance out all that dark stuff from the Pentagon and the CIA and all the other three-letter agencies that are sprinkled around there like little dog turds,
Okay.
That's a technical spiritual phrase, Angie.
Okay. I've never heard it, actually. I mustn't be in the right circles.
Oh. Anyway, it's quite heavy energy there, as you might imagine. I mean, just any big city is heavy energy. But I had intuition to go to the Andes, and I kept talking to friends, and I finally found someone who had family in La Paz, Bolivia. And I just, at the time, I'd closed my office and we were all working from home. And I was like, hey, I could be traveling and working from home. And I bought a ticket to La Paz. I bought a 3 month return ticket, and I didn't know why. My intuition said, go do this. And my ego was like, why are we doing this? How are we going to live there? What's it like? Isn't it dangerous? And even when I was getting on the plane, my mind was chattering away. This is a mistake. Why are you doing this? But as soon as I landed, it just felt wonderful. It felt so free and beautiful. Very beautiful country there. So
so you started with Bolivia, but you're in Peru now, aren't you?
yeah, I kind of turned bright at La Paz. I lived in La Paz for 7 months. It's a beautiful city. I met a lot of yogis and other spiritual people, but La Paz is like a 4 million people city, and the spiritual people are kind of spread out all over the place. So it was always a 20-minute taxi ride to go anywhere. So I visited Cusco, Peru, and I found it even more magical. And here, a lot of the spiritual people are more concentrated in one part of town. So, and maybe the energy's a bit different. It's a bit of a smaller town. It's only 500,000 instead of 4 million. I mean, but Bolivia's magical too. They're both in different ways. I mean, they used to be one country, before, whenever they split apart after their independence revolution. So they're definitely related. But yeah, I love it here. It's a very magical country. I think of Cusco as like it's the mother who kind of slaps you around the face to wake up. It's kind of, hey, wake up, wake up, wake up. Whereas other parts of Peru, like there's a place called the Sacred Valley, and there it's more the loving, like, oh, you take your time waking up. But generally it's a bit like, I find Cusco's a bit, I've never been to the Bermuda Triangle, but I imagine it's a bit this way, because people come here and either they, spirit shows them stuff in their face and like, hey, it's time to change your life and do things differently or whatever. And people either love it and they embrace that and they go through a lot of changes, or they just leave immediately because they can't take it. And they're leaving in their 3D reality because shit is happening. We're allowed to say 4-letter words here.
Okay.
I didn't check. I'll try and moderate myself.
No, go ahead. Be you.
No, but people, stuff comes up, like they have a health challenge, or they're like, they have a credit card meltdown, or their job gets a disaster, or their relationship, and that's either an invitation like, oh, maybe I need to look at this area of my life, or they run away because they can't handle that much transformation in such a short period of time. So now, having said all that, and I've lived here for 10 years, and I hope I've embraced most of the transformation. I mean, none of us are perfect, right? But I think the whole world is currently going through a kind of accelerated transformation. And for some people it's a bit much, I would say for most people it's there's a bit too much transformation happening, a bit too much. It's like when you want a little slice of chocolate cake, but then you get given like a 32-pound monster chocolate cake and told to eat it all at once in one afternoon, and you might feel a bit nauseous, even though chocolate cake is wonderful.
Absolutely.
I hope that answered your question. I went off on a few tangents there, I think.
No, I like the tangents. I really do. And
okay.
I'm curious now to know if Peru or the Andes, because it's not really Peru, it's the Andes, held the promise that your intuition said they would deliver. And is it what you just talked about?
My intuition just said go there. It didn't say why.
And have you found out since?
Step.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very glad I came here. Yeah. And I'm not attached to being here. I mean, if here turns out not to be the place to be, then I'll go somewhere else. It's not, it's not, I mean, it is, I'm very happy here. It's very magical. The people are very friendly. There's a very special energy here. And, this exists in other places in the world.
It's just your happy place.
And it's happy for me in this moment. So,
okay. Yeah. So before your yoga adventures and you opening your intuition and spirituality, because this seems they're quite linked, did you consider yourself intuitive?
Well, it depends how far back we go. I mean, I think every human is intuitive. We just we learn or are programmed in school and through parenting and jobs and society and watching TV and what have you to cover it up that it's, dangerous and evil and shouldn't trust it. So, but really, I think every human is intuitive. And you can see this in young children. They're much more open to seeing spirits or hearing messages. And it's only if adults tell them, oh, that's naughty or dangerous, that they keep quiet. So,
but particularly
when I was younger, I covered it up more. I mean, I did a whole math degree and masters and went into computer programming. And I actually think those fields are it's very useful to be intuitive in that, to decide what direction to take or how to solve a problem. It all comes down to creativity. And many programmers will tell you, or mathematicians, that they often solve problems when they have a nap or they take a shower or they go for a walk. That's when they really solve the problem. Yeah, you can do hard work and you can use your logical mind, but usually the breakthroughs happen through a stroke of insight or intuition. And the best people in most fields have a strong grasp of intuition, whatever they call it. I mean, I remember reading the story of some big investor. I'll leave his name out of it because he's a bit of a dickhead, but he gets himself into big positions in options and he knows when to get out when his back starts aching. When he gets back, he's like, need to move out of this position.
Okay.
I mean, that's the intuition talking to him. Well, whatever he calls it. So.
How does your intuition speak to you? Is it a physical sensation or many different? Is there one stronger way for you to receive it?
I get it in many ways now. I mean, and everyone gets their intuition differently, so there's no right way to get it. And that's what I write about a lot in my book. That, a lot of people think they're not doing it right, or if they don't get like a FedEx parcel with their intuitive message written in 10-point type, then it's incorrect, or if they're not hearing voices or whatever. So I sometimes hear voices. I sometimes get a knowing inside that this is the right way. I'll do muscle testing on myself. Sometimes I get physical things like bits of my body start hurting or not in a state of ease, and then I'll look at what that message means. And I read there's a book called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, and it has a whole table at the back of like, here's a bunch of health symptoms and body parts, and if you're having this issue, it might mean this, and it gives a good starting point. So that's a good way to get body messages. I mean, animals, birds can be, you're going for a walk and an unusual animal appears, or it seems to be behaving weird. Usually, often there's messages from those. I mean, one time, I forget the circumstances as to why this message came, but I remember the message clearly, which it was like 3 a.m., dark in the middle of the night, very cold here because we don't have central heating in Peru. We don't believe in that kind of fancy stuff like you have in England. Just wear more clothes. Anyway, I got up to pee and I heard this noise and I looked around the corner of the door and there was this rat in my room. I've kind of freaked out a bit, and the next morning I left my door open to, hey, I don't really need a rat in my room. But I looked up the meaning of rat, and it's to do with getting through small spaces and intelligence and what have you. And if you've ever seen those pictures of Ganesh, the Indian god with the elephant head, he always has a rat next to him because Ganesh is the problem solver, but he has the rat there because the rat can always sneak in through the spaces to solve the problem. And that was the message from that particular day. And the rat, I never saw it again. It's not like I had a rat infestation. It just, spirit sent
like
this
that.
rat to do this thing.
I had a squirrel who came like hitting my window, my bedroom window twice. And I've lived in the same house for 20 years. And in 20 years, I've never had a squirrel hit my window. And he ran
they will
into
do
the
strange
window. Yeah. So I knew
it's
that was a
almost
message
like
too.
spirit is talking to the animal or the bird or the insect. It's like, hey, Michaela needs this little nudge. Would you mind just kind of doing this weird thing? It's only for a few minutes, or, sometimes it's a group of animals. Like, sometimes, maybe you only see snakes occasionally, but now you see 7 snakes and they're all going in a northwest direction. Well, what does that mean? What's the number 7 mean? What's that direction mean? What does a snake mean to you in this moment in your life? So, and the same thing can happen with all kinds of symbolism in our lives. I mean, I really think all of it is, and I think we've all had the experience, we think of a friend and then they're texting us or phoning us or whatever. So the same thing happens in our reality. I think it's a mirror to us. And if we're there, if we're aware, we can hear that nudge. Now, I do believe that when it's an important message, that the messages will come in many ways. Like, here's another way I get messages. Sometimes I get ringing in an ear. And the way I personally interpret that is it's a spirit or an angel trying to tell me something, but they're talking in such a high-pitched voice that it comes out as ringing. And if I just say, excuse me, could you give me this message another way? The ringing goes away, and usually I get the message. So,
I never thought of doing that. So I've had quite a lot of ringing in my ears recently, but I'll just
well, just ask the angels to, like, could you say it in a way I can hear it, or show me another way? That works for me. I'm not guaranteeing that everyone's ear ringing is that cause, but certainly that's true for me. So yeah, there are many ways we can get messages. I remember one time, I have some magic crystals that I programmed, and one time I forget exactly. I think I'd hit myself in the eye accidentally. I was kind of dancing wildly and screwed up. And I just heard this loud voice, use the rock. Now, I interpret that to mean pick up my magic crystal and apply it to where I'd hurt myself. But it was interesting that they didn't use the word I used. They used a different word. Because sometimes these spiritual beings, English is not their, spoken language is not their first language. And they sometimes will say things in weird ways. I need to reinterpret it.
So what was it in the end? Oh, it was still your crystal, but they said rock instead.
Yeah, it was just use the crystal on it, and I put the crystal on the bit I dorked up, and then it felt fine, But it was effing painful, But this voice was one of the louder voices I've heard in my head. And what was interesting to me, it didn't use the words I would have used,
So that's where it's probably not you.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I took it.
Do you have like a big story of intuition you'd like to share with our audience? about using your intuition in business, and a breakthrough or something, that happens as a result of it?
Well, I'm not, this is more magic than intuition, but same. I mean, I was, and this was something that happened when I was first in Peru, and I went to a magic retreat here with someone who was teaching some techniques. And I was doing a proposal for a software project, and I knew they were talking to other companies. So I did some magic where I visualized our company coming nearer to them and the other companies being gently pushed further away. And I was also concerned, this was a sell to a committee type situation. I hate selling to committees. You never know who's happy there. You've got 6 people in the room. I much rather sell to one person. And so I did this, the magic techniques we learned, moving the energy around and making it easy. And I was all ready for a 5 p.m. call, and the bus coming back from the magic ruins was late, and I was dashing in the hotel room to get on Skype to do the call. Anyway, I get on the call, and the guy I was talking to, he was the CTO of the company. He's like, "Oh, we decided we don't need to talk to the committee. We've already made up our mind. We're going to work with you, and let's go ahead and sign the contract now." So that was and it was $130,000 deal. So I was very happy with it, because at the time I had a lot of debts and I needed to pay them off. So
oh, that's great. I love
stuff
it.
works. But I mean, I'll use my intuition, like, hey, what is a happy amount there? What amount would they be happy spending so I can win the deal? I also use it like, are they idiots and I don't want to work with them? Do I get a bad vibe when I'm interacting with them? Same with hiring. That's another major business decision.
True.
You don't, if you hire the wrong person, it can totally mess up your business or cause lost opportunity costs or upset other team members or upset customers. So I always, look at my intuition on.
And you talk about this in your first book, don't you? The Intuitive Leadership Mastery.
I do the whole chapter on hiring.
Yeah, I remember that. And marketing as well as all the big decisions, really.
Yeah, marketing and sales. I mean, the other thing I think with business, my personal spiritual view is everything has spirit in it. The humans, cats, dogs, plants, mountains, buildings, and businesses. A business has its own spiritual entity. It's not a human spiritual entity. It's a different thing. It can be a little harder to talk with, but you can ask your business, well, what do you want to do? What direction do you want to go in? And see what information you get on that. So, and I also honestly believe that we're here incarnated in our human bodies for, have experiences and for joy and for spiritual growth. And part of being an entrepreneur and having a business or a job or whatever is growing in our lives. And I generally feel that when people choose to be entrepreneurs, they're kind of stepping up to get a lot more spiritual growth than they would have done otherwise. And I think everyone who's been an entrepreneur can, relate to that, because it's like, I don't know how to hire, or they make mistakes. I've made lots of mistakes. I've hired hundreds of people over the years. I've screwed up a bunch of times, and sometimes it's painful. But I think owning a business, being an entrepreneur, is an exercise in accelerated spiritual growth. So, and there are so many opportunities, to overcome our own inner demons, our own, reluctance to public speak, or to be on podcasts, or to make sales calls, or to do marketing, or put ourselves out there, or to be a leader of a group of people, or to be a thought leader in an industry, or whatever. These can be scary things, right? And usually scary things is just another way of saying this is an opportunity to grow a lot.
Yeah, this is where the growth is, where you don't want to go, or what scares you.
Usually. Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to do it, but it's an invitation. So
you've interviewed dozens, I want to say hundreds, but you don't have 100 podcast episodes yet, but of entrepreneurs who use their intuition. Is there a sort of thread to is there a common denominator between all these people, or are they as varied as you can get them?
I talk to a lot of different people, and I talk to some people who are openly using their intuition. I talk to other people who are afraid of using it. So I remember one entrepreneur, he used to be a professional poker player, and poker players have to use their intuition, to know, okay, what should I do? I mean, they have to use their mathematical ability with, what are the odds or whatever, but
Yeah.
a lot of it does come down to a gut feeling on that. Same with all kinds of things. I mean, in the military too, good soldiers know when something's wrong and they should not be walking down this street, or they need to pay attention. Same with police officers or emergency services, or doctors. You just get a feeling, or even attorneys.
Yeah, obviously we talked about that, didn't we, on your podcast?
Yes. Yeah. A good attorney will get a feel when a deal has got some issues, or if it's a criminal case, what should they be pushing? Should they be pushing this witness further, or should they keep quiet on this? Or which jury members should be removed from the jury, and which ones should they encourage? There's some science in there, there's some data, but a lot of it does come down to intuition, because it involves other people, right? And
so
people is complex.
Do there's two theories about intuition? One is that thin slicing that Malcolm Gladwell expanded on, and then there's one where it's more than that. Which of the two theories do you lean towards about what intuition is?
So the thin slicing saying that, you accumulate a lot of data and somehow
and then in a split second you're able to make a judgment.
Your subconscious has been accumulating this like a massive super AI computer, and it spits out the results in an intuitive way. I think some of that goes on, but I really think it's a spiritual thing, and it's much bigger. We're not just in a body. We're multidimensional beings, and we're picking up a lot of other information, and that's what intuition is connecting to the spiritual dimension, but it comes out as you get a tummy ache, or you get an animal comes across your path, or you hear voices, or you smell something weird. Some people get strange smells,
I have a couple of times, not all the time, but I've smelled cigar in my home when nobody smokes, and I'm like as far from other people's homes as I can be. So I knew it was something from spirit.
Well, and I think buildings and spaces, they retain energy from previous things. If something nasty happened in a hotel room, say someone was raped or murdered or had a nasty argument or whatever, then often the energy will linger. And the same in places. I used to travel before all this excitement with the pandemic thing happened, and I love going to places. Like I went to Berlin, and they have a museum there for the Gestapo, which is a very depressing and dark thing. But the interest to me, apart from the human interest, was feeling the energy, and what could I do to heal that? How could I send light in to heal it? And the same thing when I went to Cambodia. I went to visit some of the nasty places from the genocide there, and like, okay, how does this feel? Or even here in Cusco, I go to the cathedral, and I'll just walk around and feel the energy. Some of the doorways there, I don't know for an historic fact what happened, but clearly something violent and nasty happened. This church it's an enormous cathedral, has like 6 doorways. Some of them, something happened because the energy is really heavy there. And they have a crypt in this particular cathedral, where the history of Peru is the Spanish came and invaded and killed a lot of people. And some of these conquistadors got a bit nervous as they were getting older. They might not make it to heaven after all the rape, pillaging, and murder they'd done. So they did a payoff of a few $1 million of gold to the church and said, could you bury us inside the church so we're guaranteed to get to heaven? Well, I went into that crypt where these people are buried. It did not feel good, I have to tell you. I hope they
my
did go to
goodness.
heaven eventually, but I mean, I think they might have spent a few decades in purgatory, seeing as they were Catholic, and that's one of their beliefs.
Yeah, it's all about beliefs as well.
But we can clear this energy too. I mean, I remember interviewing this guy on my podcast. He, at the time, I don't know if he's still doing this, but he has a tea business. He sells tea online and he sources it in the mountains of China. But he's incredibly sensitive to energy, and he couldn't live in cities anymore. In fact, he was living in I forget exactly what the city's called, but they had some enormous shipping explosion there, and he nearly died. And that's when he woke up and he's like, I need to go live somewhere else, out in the countryside of China. But he would go to a hotel and he would just like, I need to clean the energy here.
I'm not surprised. So I'd love for people to be able to find your books, and then I have the magic question that I ask all my guests. So
Ooh, magic question.
Yeah, first tell us where people can find you.
You can find me at intuitiveleadershipmastery.com, all one word, no spaces, no hyphens or anything. My books are Intuitive Leadership Mastery and What Would It Take? And I have a technology book as well for my software business. You can find me, my name's fairly unusual, Michaela Light. Yeah. That's spelt like Michael with an A on the end. And
you're
Light
also in my group, as it is.
I am in your group. Yes, you can find me there.
And you know what? It's 1444 in the UK right now. I love that.
Woo!
I know. Well, I don't know if you do triple numbers, but they kind of excite me sometimes.
Sure, no, that's another way to get, sometimes clocks and numbers give intuitive info. So yeah, or dates, there's all kinds of ways this stuff even computers,
So, and you're on LinkedIn as well?
I am on LinkedIn. Yeah, find me there as Michaela Light. I think you're gonna.
So I'll get all your links, because we realized before recording this episode that I forgot to send you the welcome email for my guests. I know, of all people, I forgot it for you. So my apologies. But yeah, all the links will be in the show notes, as well as the links to your books on Amazon that I highly recommend. Do you know what? I want to add something, Michaela, because I went to look at your books on Amazon because I did a research on several books, and yours on intuition are the only one who don't have negative reviews. And I was really impressed. Yeah. Every other book, there was some, I'm going to say really nasty reviews, but something like, oh, what a waste of time or anything like that. Not on your books. And that's something to be noticed because it's very, very rare. So another reason to recommend you.
Well, thank you. I mean, I will tell you, when I did those books, when I published my first book, that was a business personal growth thing because I was very frightened doing it. So I did magic that only the right people will find the book, and those negative reviews on other people's books may not mean those books are bad. It may just be those are people who aren't ready to hear about these things.
I agree with you.
And don't understand it. So I just asked Spirit, I don't need those kind of people to encounter my book. And so they didn't. They just don't see it, and that's a trick you can do on anything in business, whether it's a video you're putting out or a post on social media or your public speaking. You don't have to, if you want for personal growth reasons to have a whole bunch of negative feedback, go ahead. But if that's not your thing, I'd
rather have it another way. Yeah. It's not my thing.
I mean, I think there's a difference between negative feedback and constructive feedback, right?
It's very different.
Yeah, and if you don't, there's nothing wrong with any kind of feedback. It's all more about them than you typically. But I chose not to have that because I was real nervous about publishing my first book. So I just said, hey, let's just set up the magic so it doesn't go.
Your intention.
No, I also had a wonderful group of fans who loved it, and when they'd read the book, some of them left reviews. So
Yeah, they did. I read them. Wonderful. So, what would you say? This is the question I ask all my guests.
The magic question.
Yeah, what would you say to someone who's afraid to use their intuition in business?
Well, it's it's up to you. You can start in small ways, build up them, but you know, it's like going to the gymnasium, right? You're not going to lift 100-pound weight on the first day. So maybe you should start small, and maybe you don't want to do it on $1 million deal the first day. Maybe you start
Exactly.
off with some smaller decisions. And the one thing I'd recommend is keep an intuition journal where you just, and this could be a
Absolutely.
spreadsheet or a paper book, and just write down, here was the decision I was making, and here's the nudges I got. You know, I had indigestion afterwards, or you know, I got a nudge here. I thought I heard this voice, or, you know, or 3 pigeons came and bonked into my window 5 minutes later. And some of those things may not be accurate, and some may be better. Like maybe your tummy hurt because you ate 7 hamburgers for lunch and not because you had a bad intuition, you know?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but the more you do this, the more attention you pay to it. It's just like going to the gym to improve your physical body. You'll improve your intuitive abilities, and you'll see what ways do I best hear this? What circumstances do I best hear it? Is it better for me to play loud rap music to hear my intuition, or should I go into a quiet, meditative room? And different things work for different people. So, or dreams is another way. You know, some people get dream messages. So, anyway, by paying attention and making a record of it, you can hone it down. And if you start off with smaller decisions, you're not going to be so nervous about it. And you don't have to be, you don't have to tell other people. I mean, I'm pretty out there. You know, I don't cover it up. I mean, I'll whip out my magic wand in sales calls on occasion just for the heck of it. But
can we see it? Do you have it near you?
It's on my bookshelf back there.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I could go if you want to if you pause the recording, I'm happy to go grab it.
Sure, I would love to, because this is also recorded as a video, and with your permission, I'll put it on YouTube.
Absolutely, go for it.
Yeah, okay, let's pause it then. Go and get your magic wand.
I'll be back in a sec.
Okay.
All right, so this is my Toys R Us magic wand. Is there any particular wish you'd like for your audience or yourself?
I would love for the podcast to create the revolution in intuition in business that it's meant to create, and to inspire the listeners to be a bit more brave about their intuition and being more open about it and trying new things and having fun.
All right.
And come to us for guidance.
Okay. So what would it take that your podcast creates a revolution in business intuition and wakes people up, and everyone listening is a lot more brave and using their intuition and succeeding in their business beyond their wildest dreams?
I love it. It even does music. I love it.
I know. I just got it. It was $6 at Toys R Us. I'm sure there's an equivalent in other countries, or you can get it on Amazon. And this is just for my entertainment. It's got a little battery in, but it's so cute.
Yeah, it is.
You know, this isn't quite intuition, but I will say that a little bit of joy and humor goes a long way in business.
I agree.
You know, making money is important, and if you're not having fun, then why are you doing it? You know, might as well bring some joy to other people. And I honestly think staff, vendors, customers, they're partly attracted. Obviously, they want to have a good job done or have a good experience, but they also want to have some joy in their life, feel they're with wonderful, magical people, or at least the ones who work with me are.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. It's been a real honor to have you, and so much fun and joy as well. And I want to thank the listeners for listening to our conversation. Thank you, everyone.